Yo,
Yo,
Haribo. Are we doing
Haribo,
are we
spirit
doing
self,
our we're created our own mixture between hip hop and
Vedic culture.
Vedic culture, Vedic hip hop. Yeah.
Ved,
Haribo.
yeah.
Um
That's,
actually I was gonna say something about that. I was watching a little bit of our last episode. What I wrote for the description of this one was I said we're two guys living Christian, something like this. I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but we're like two Krishna consciousness is a major part of our lives, but we ain't no temple dwellers. We, and then something about like we're into Krishna consciousness and hip hop and all other seemingly conflicting things. This is our real life journey of living in the material, trying to apply Krishna consciousness while living in the material world.
yeah,
What? I think we should just get right into it, man. You want to do
yeah.
our intro?
Explains it. Yeah,
That's it. All right, let's
it's
do this.
a real mix. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Break it down now.
What?
Hey, hey, ha, ha, hey, hey,
Oh.
uh, 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 yeah.
I can just hear DJ Khaled. We the best.
Another one. Yeah. Yeah.
Vaishnava.
We're not these bodies, we're not these minds, we're spirit, souls, part and parcel of the divine. Yeah. Bow, bow.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Welcome
That's our
to
theme tune,
episode
baby.
3. That's right. One of the greatest of all time. Speaking of music, you got one of the greatest of all times right behind you, George
Yeah.
Harrison, Hari's son, as Prabhupada
Son of
said when he
Hari.
said, should I be initiated or should I be a monk or something? And he said, you already have a name.
Yeah.
Hari's son.
That was good that he had a name like that. I wonder what if he didn't, what he would have said, but it's probably arranged that he'd have that name anyway.
Yeah. You think our
Imagine if
names
his
are
name was just like Smith.
Smith?
Yeah, he probably should get a new name.
Smith. That's just like John
Probably,
Smith, the
there's
whitest
probably
name ever.
some Sanskrit. You know, everything's coming from Sanskrit. But no, that was really nice arrangement, and it's a nice painting. My friend's mum actually painted that for me because she knows I like George Harrison. So that's very nice.
Well, you're from the land of the Beatles.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm from England, not Liverpool, but still, yeah, from the same country. And yeah, he's a big inspiration for me, George Harrison, for sure, because you know he's the one who really engaged his music in Krishna consciousness and was a good example of dovetailing and spiritualizing what he was already doing. So I cite him as a big inspiration and example, really. And he wasn't, sorry, but he wasn't a temple dweller actually. That was, and Prabhupada said that to him. Then he said, "Oh, I want to move into the temple and shave up," and he said, "No, carry on." Of course, he was doing great preaching in his position, so it was a very favorable position to carry on. But that's a clear example of Prabhupada saying to someone, "No, you don't have to live in the temple. You can, you know, be a devotee outside of the temple and serve Krishna in that way." So that's also why he's a big inspiration to me, because yeah, that's what I do. That's what we do. So I look to people like that who have been successful in that way, and hopefully be an example.
He's a really interesting character. Did you watch his documentary Living in the Material World?
Yeah.
That was real cool, right? And of course you know, because it was just about his life. It wasn't a Krishna consciousness documentary, but you can't help because Krishna consciousness and spirituality was such part of his life that it would just naturally be part of the documentary. And how many cool things he did. It was crazy, this story. I never knew that when the guy broke into his house and was trying to like stab him, or he got stabbed up and such. And he was like chanting, like fighting the guy while he's chanting and stuff. I was like, what?
Yeah, and he was being so humorous still, and so I can't remember the exact story, but there's so many examples of him having almost that deadpan humor still in all situations. Like they said when he was being on the trolley going into the ambulance or something, he said to the gardener like, "So how's your first day?" or something like that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, yo, I see whoever's with us live or watching the recording. If you guys can leave a comment, a like, a subscribe, a something, it
Yeah.
helps us get this out there. If you know any other home dwellers, not temple dwellers, temple dwellers are allowed here as well. All are welcome here. Even if you've never even heard of Krishna consciousness, everybody's welcome, of course. We just like to take a fun approach to Krishna consciousness. But yeah, it helps us out. We appreciate you. Say what's up, leave your comments, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's
mm.
it's important to have something like this. I wish I had something like this when I was first coming to Krishna consciousness, because it's great to be around the temple and to find out the traditions and the philosophy and things. But if you're not going to move into the temple, sometimes it becomes quite conflicting. And I've often felt between two worlds. Even now, I still feel like that. You've been a great example for me, to be honest, of someone who's living authentically as a devotee, as a householder, living outside of the temple. But I still feel conflicted sometimes. Even happened to me this week. I had some material sufferings. So then my mind was like, oh, that's it. There's no happiness here. I'm going to have to go. And luckily I do seem to take shelter of Krishna in those times when things aren't, going well materially. But then I went a bit extreme the other way. That's it. I'm going to go to the temple now. And then I was there for a little while. And after a while, I was like, oh, yeah, this isn't my place either. I still want to work on my Krishna consciousness and be a devotee and serve Krishna, but I'm not going to be a brahmachari in the temple. And so when I feel between two worlds, so it happened again slightly to me. I'm doing better at, sounds a bit Buddhist, middle path, but finding that way where, to coexist those things. But it's like, yeah, I still go from those extremes, and it's important to have examples of people that aren't in either extreme, but are still, progressing in their Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, we have that concept, I believe, in the middle path as well too. Like, don't eat too much, don't eat too little, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too middle. Like, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little, don't eat too much, don't eat too little. All that kind of stuff, because then it's impossible to practice yoga. And that kind of idea of the middle path. I mean, that's what the Buddha actually discovered, in my understanding of his story. When I really got serious about my own spiritual path and started learning and discovering spirituality, that's where I started with Buddhism. I was chilling with the Shambhala Buddhists, and they're a bald-headed sect too of Buddhism.
Just find some bald guys; they got the knowledge.
So yeah, pretty much the balder you are, you're gonna have to shave up, yeah. I just look for bald dudes, and I'm like, they're probably wise. Yeah. Actually, and that idea of the middle path came from, my understanding anyways, is that it came from him doing all these extreme, aestheticism, standing on one leg. We've seen the yogis with like their one arms up and they got this little gimp arm and they're like, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. And it's so, to me, it's so useless, because it's like, and now your arm's just broke and you can't do nothing with it. But I get it, you're powerful. I'm sure they've got some CDs or some benefit, of course, from it. Any austerity will bring some benefit, but but yeah, he was doing all that. And then and so he did the whole material thing. He was a prince. He had all the women and the luxury and the 50. Life was like a 50-cent video, except like 2,500 years ago. So whatever that was like, maybe they weren't twerking. What were they doing 2,500 years ago? Just like twirling. They weren't twerking. They were twirling.
Yeah. To twirl. That was enough back then. That was quite explicit back then.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she's twirling.
Turned around.
So whatever they were doing back then, he was doing it. And then he did the whole extreme aestheticism, and he realized, well, that I'm still not happy, or I still haven't found the ultimate. And then he was like, boom, middle path. I'm going to sit here under the Bodhi tree. I'm not moving till I know the path. And I find it really interesting because he had to go through his levels of realization. He had three big challenges come to him, which is very similar if you know the story of Jesus. It's almost like that was the thing that got me back into like God. See, when I was like, I want to explore spirituality, I went to Buddhism because, you know, Buddhism is depending on the type of Buddhism is kind of atheistic, right? It's just about the mind. And so I thought, I can get behind that, you know, just learn how to be peaceful, learn how to be mindful, that type of thing. And I was really attracted to that. But what actually turned me back onto God was the Buddha, because because I grew up Catholic, so I'm really familiar with the story of Jesus, and always been down with JC. I said, I was like, man, I read the story and I was like, wait, this is pretty much like Jesus's story, of course, with its own cultural nuances and differences, but it's like the same principles are there, right? He had to go find himself, you know, for many years, almost about the same amount of time, 11 years and such. Then he had to have his like moment where he's like going to sit there and like fast, if you will. I'm not moving till I know the truth. Jesus did the same thing, 40 days, 40 nights of fasting in the desert, where he met the devil, and the devil tempted him in these ways. So the Buddha, he sat down under the Bodhi tree and he's like, yo, I ain't leaving here. Those were exact words, by the way. That's quoted right from the Buddha Sutras. Yo, I ain't leaving this Bodhi tree until I know the truth, until I'm enlightened. And then he sat there and he did his meditation thing. And then he had three temptations come to him. And the first one, and it was in the name of Mara, M-A-R-A. And so we call it Maya, which is illusion.
Just one letter changed.
Yeah, they call it Mara, which is the internal demon or the illusory factor that tempts us. And the Christians call it devil. It's the same principle, though. That's why to me it's so funny when everybody's fighting. Right? I'm like, you do realize it's like the same thing you're saying. It's just different analogies or allegories.
Yeah, and different details.
Yeah, different details and different languages, so they're interpreted different and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, he sits there, so Mara comes to him, and Mara's all like, that's how I picture Mara, like a little devil. And he's like, yo, man, why are you doing this? This is stupid. You're sitting under here in this tree. You got all those fine women back at the palace, because he was a prince. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince. You got all those fine women back at the palace. You got all the nice food. You got all the riches. Why don't you just go back, be a prince? You'll be a big king. You'll be a big shot caller. And he's like, no, I did that. I'm not doing it. No. And so Marta goes away. Marta comes back a second time. And he's like, yo, man. Oh, no, it was riches. The first one was riches and then luxury. Then the second one, he comes back and he's like, yo, check these women out, yo. And he's just all the finest women, sexy. And they were doing their twirling, twerking dances. And he's like, no, I've done all the women. Blah, blah, not doing that either. I didn't find no happiness there. So finally, boom, Marta goes away. Then Marta comes back second time, third time. And he takes a bow because the last one was fear. So he had to face fear. So the first one was like temptations of luxury, material gain and profit. The second one was lustiness, right? Yeah, and then the third one was fear. And so Marta took his arrows and shot him. And the Buddha was like, go ahead, like kill me. I don't care. Like it's, I'm in it to win it. And the story is that as the arrows flew towards Siddhartha, the arrows actually ended up turning into flowers and bathing him. And then poof, Mara disappears. So fear, Maya, illusion, the devil, boom, he conquers it and opens up and boom, he's all enlightened and everything. And he basically wakes up a different person, or what comes out of his meditation completely different. And then he was going to disappear. He was just going to go into the mountains and just be blissed out. And then a bunch of his old buddies who used to meditate with the aesthetics and stuff saw him and they recognized, yo, this guy's different. This man's on a different platform. He's different. Teach us. And so he started teaching, and he started teaching the middle path. He started saying all this extreme aestheticism isn't it. You have to eat.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were making fun of him.
Mm.
They were saying he lost his weight because he sat down and had a bowl of rice because he was hungry.
Mm. Mm.
And but then as he started speaking and they could see his vibe, his aura, they were like, whoa, okay, he's different, definitely. And that's what he said, all this extreme aestheticism and all that. And then he he did his preaching thing for a while.
Well, that story also, that so many of the stories and philosophies are so alike, aren't they, in different traditions? That one also reminds me, it's like the different, like almost a serious, the more serious you get about Krishna consciousness, they say there's like the different levels of what you do, and one is, like you said, it's almost you just declare war on Maya, you know. So it seems like that's similar. She came back 3 times, so those are like different levels where you know you're mixed, and how serious are you, and then at a certain point you just declare all out war. And then of course they say, don't they, that eventually Maya like pays obeisances to you if you kind of get through it all. You know, because she's only serving Krishna and testing you to see if you're ready. So it's almost like but there are several stages to how serious we are about Krishna consciousness. But no, it's very interesting what you say, because I'm not saying I'm like the Buddha, or like declaring war on Maya, or that she's paying obeisance to me at all. But I'm just certainly trying to find in my life some authentic way of living in the world as a devotee. And I don't know if it's my problem or the society's problem or whatever, but sometimes, you know, when I still go to the temple, like I love it, but there's always just a vibe for me that like I just get a bit put off still, man. Like they always like just like, how many rounds are you chanting, Prabhu? Like it's like I just got it, like like, do you know what I mean? And it's always like, oh, if you've been away from the temple, it's like assumed that you're just indulging in Maya, and then it's assumed that Maya is not in the temple or something. So it's like the inside and outside kind of thing. So I like to try to, you know, to learn from people at the temple and stuff like that. But then there's such like, you know, rigid things that, to be honest, they fry me out a bit, you know. And it's like sometimes I'm really working on my Krishna consciousness when I'm not around the temple, but it's kind of a bit disappointing when you go back that they just assume you've been doing nonsense, and then, oh, are you following this and that? Then, because of course chanting is important, but you could also be doing all the things externally, but underneath have all kinds of secrets going on and not saying, you know. I'm just trying to like be honest.
And Prahlad gives us the 9 different devotional paths, right? Remembering and all these type of things, and the other thing too, I was going to say with that is really interesting, and it may be like just a little bit. I know I went through this, especially at the beginning, which was like seeking like almost approval, like somebody has to know I'm practicing Krishna
That's a
consciousness.
good point.
So it's like one of the things for me, it's funny, it's like, you know, I'm a big like recognition guy, right? Everybody got to know who I am, you know. I want to pull up to the spot and everyone's like, ah, right? But I recognize that's like nonsense, and you know, and I've had now tons of recognition in like in the political world, and you know, blah 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 blah, and it ain't chalked up to all. It's, you know, it's like I'm kind of happy that all that happened, but my point is that there's like this point, at least maybe and again, it's just a thought, where it's like maybe it's like, because I know I went through this where it's like, yeah, I was all shaved up and dhoti, everything, tilak, blah 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 blah, the whole 9, but I was really doing it so that others would be like, wow, he's so advanced, he's so he's bought so much, he's so Vedic, he's so right.
And after a while I couldn't pretend like that anymore, because I didn't feel it was real, you know.
That's right. And so I think it's about being just real and being, you know, authentic. And there's nothing wrong with the dhoti and the tilak. Of course, it's all part of the tradition and all that. It's not
sometimes
that's not
what
I'm saying. Yeah, me too, right? And sometimes like on the appropriate, like I like that, like actually there's going to be some Rath Yatra festivals coming up here, and I'm going to dhoti it up and tilak it up and all that stuff. And, you know, I love doing that stuff. But I think that, again, it's knowing your heart and being like, why am I really doing this, you know, and making sure I'm taking the picture and I'm looking all holy and everything, right? But then I'm going home and I'm listening to Pac and I'm like, you know, whatever, you know. And so it's just like, okay, it's because internally, that egoistic part of me wants recognition and wants people to be like, oh, wow, look how awesome he is. And wow, he must be so amazing. He's doing it so well and all this type of stuff. But I realized, yeah, me too. I was kind of like, yeah, but this ain't real. And I really want to do it. I want it to be for real. And the other thing too, I took this a little bit from a Stoic, because I'm into all kinds of different philosophies, right? Like I practice bhakti, and I believe bhakti. Nothing has taught me more than Srila Prabhupada's books, right? So that's why I'm like here for Srila Prabhupada, his books, and the knowledge, the philosophy. Like, you know, I'm reading Srimad Bhagavatam and just going through it, and you know, because the philosophy is so amazing, so in depth, the histories. Nothing else I've seen. And I've read the Bible. I've read many of the Buddha sutras. I've been to all kinds of new agey things. I've been into crystals and healing and tarot cards, and I've done all that stuff, right? And so, but what I recognize I took away from the Stoic philosophy, which I quite enjoy, is that one guy that was he had a YouTube channel about Stoicism, and he was saying that the best way to practice Stoicism, especially at the beginning, is to not tell anybody. Be a secret Stoic. He says, because actually part of it is being so true to yourself that you're not going out there and be like, yeah, I'm Stoic now, or I'm so spiritual now. I'm Krishna conscious now. People just pick up that your consciousness is different, and they'll approach you differently and that type of thing. But ultimately, it's like, can you be you in the world without having to be like recognized? And I would only guess, this is my only guess, you know, I could be completely wrong, but me and you are very similar, and we're both artists. We both, you know, we both like on stage, you know, we're front people in our respective ways, right? You know, we're on stages, we're speaking, we're doing music. So that's part of being lusty, is that fame, right? Wanting that kind of thing. And that's part of it. And so it's like a little bit of is like, oh, when I don't get recognized and people don't realize I'm chanting and I'm following and I'm doing everything and stuff, it actually helps me become stronger in mind, because I'm like, yeah, you don't actually know I'm following the principles. I'm around all kinds of karmis, right? And I don't like calling people those type of things, even though I understand that the Bhagavatam and everything, like I understand as a category, we have to recognize what a karmi is. But it's like, you know, I was like this weekend. So I'll give you a perfect example. This weekend, Saturday night, got my feet kicked up. I was like, Sarah, let's do something. Get out the house. So I give a little text message to my friends who are not my buddy there. He's Christian. Actually, we got a funny story. We played washer toss. Anyways, so I sent a message to my friends, and he's a Christian guy and stuff, but they don't follow no principles or nothing like that, right? And so we go over to their house. So we go over to their house. They got the barbecue on, they're barbecuing chicken. They got the beers going, so they're doing beer, they're eating chicken, you know, that type of thing, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I went and I brought my veggie patties and a big thing of broccoli and some grilled up veggies. So I brought my own food, and I sat there and we ate. We had a good time, and they had their food and I had my food, no problem, right? And then after, you know, we hung out the whole night, and they had beers, and he was like, yeah, we got rum and coke and we got this and we got that. And I'm like, I'm good. I just, you know, didn't touch anything, whatever. And then and we had a great night, and I came home. And so, of course, you'd be like, oh, you're hanging out with non-devotees. That's true. But I really love these people. They're like family to me. They're not my actual blood family, but they're like family. They're some of the kindest people. Yeah, they're attached to material sense gratification. I have that too in different ways. And that's it. So I just try not to judge anybody, but be solid in my own practice. In fact, I like kind of going into those scenarios and testing myself, because I could feel sometimes the pull to want to and be like, no, and then feeling strong after.
The reason we judge is because we're not comfortable in our own practice, isn't it? Like that's the only reason we ever shame anyone. We're like shaming ourselves, or we're insecure, so we don't like seeing other people do. Oh, why are they enjoying their senses? That's not allowed. You know, it's like because we want to, isn't it? And we're like can't handle seeing it, so we judge everyone because we're like, you know, not firm in our practice. So yeah, I think that's maybe everyone's different. Not everyone would be able to do that, but for you, the kind of person you are, it almost seems like it's a test, a test
totally
of your
yeah.
for
It's like
you.
my strength, right? Like I'm testing my mind. I'm wanting to be stronger of mind and body, and so I'm doing that. And yeah, anyways, we had a great time. And you know what was awesome? You know, I felt great. I was they had some music on and stuff, and we were dancing, and I was like, I don't need to be drunk to dance. I don't need to be high to have a good time. I don't need to do those things to
I
go
do
out and
that as
have a
well.
good time.
If I've ever had to go to friends' parties, like old
Yeah,
friends, and then I just start dancing, and they're like almost more less inhibited than them, you know. And they're like, "Well, you having some drinks?" I'm like, "Nah, man. It's just like I like dancing. It's fun, you know."
yeah.
So I can
Drunk
also
on
be
life, man.
be there and not drink. Of course, it sometimes those, if it's like, you know, a nightclub or whatever, it gets kind of boring because it's kind of a bit pointless after a while. But at the same time, if you can find a nice situation with people that you love and hanging around, you know, can do a bit of dancing, a bit of hanging out. But I really just wanted to go back to what you said. You called me out on it, basically, that I started complaining a bit, you know, and I was like, they ask how much I chant, you know, like, and that's again me judging, almost saying they're judging me, and so I'm judging them in saying that. And as you said, caring what people think. It should really be none of my business what people think about me, but I can't deny it's still there, and that's definitely some false ego. Just generally wanting people to think I'm great and stuff, but it's also affects me when I just want people to think I'm somewhat noble, like, or like, you know, respectable. Because I don't know, like I heard someone say, you know, as people do sometimes, like doubting if you're a proper devotee or stuff. And because I haven't been at the temple for a while, I heard someone say, oh, so and so, they're not sure if you're practicing properly or whatever. You know, I heard someone saying that. So instead of letting it go, I was like, straight away, I'm going to talk to that person. I went right up to them, was like, and was trying to be really honest. I was like, so you may have heard some things about me. It's true. I am like that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not perfect or whatever. Like, I tried to own it and say, yeah, I'm not going to pretend I'm all perfect devotee, but I'm trying to be better. So, you know, please don't worry about having me around. I'm like not gonna, you know, do any bad stuff or whatever. But then, so that felt really good because I felt like I stood up for myself and was like really honest about where I'm at. But then afterwards, I was a bit like, but why did I need to say anything at all? Like, why
yeah,
didn't I just go, or whatever they think, you know, if I'm at the program? But I feel like if I'm at the programs and they're like, oh, he's not a proper devotee, he's not, you know, initiated, and he's like, is he even chanting 16 rounds and this stuff? And I feel like I can feel that energy, and I get like, and I start to be like, I've given my life for this movement,
yeah.
and
To me,
all I
that's
get is
like
this.
yeah. To me, that's like girls, like little girls, you know, like going and whispering
I
in the
know, but
corner.
that annoys me though, because they actually do that. Like, I don't care what you know, how many rounds people are chanting and stuff. I just try to just hang around with them. But
Well, I
yeah,
think
there is. But anyway,
there's
I don't want
this,
to complain, but it's a good point
yeah,
you bring up, because why should I? But somewhat, I just want to say somewhat, it's almost about, you know, like a warrior or that wants to prove he's noble or something like
yeah,
that, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Like, it's like, you besmudge my reputation, like, you know, like that.
That's from that Viking shows we've been watching.
Yeah, I watched too much Viking show, but it's like, but it's honor and stuff like that, you know, and trying to do the right thing,
You
and people
besmudge my reputation.
besmudge. So I turn up and say, it is true, I am not the most holy man, and I have made mistakes, but I am loyal to my oath.
I love it, man. That's awesome. There's this cool little pin that I got. One of my mentors on the law of attraction gave me this. And it says, "I mind my own vibration," which basically means I'm on my own business. And you know, one of the things, you know, actually, Jaya Jagannath, who's an awesome bro, an awesome dude. They've got that on the Bodhika channel. They got
Arise,
that
heroic man.
yeah, the Arise podcast. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's a really good it's not a devotee, they're devotees, but it's for
Yeah,
everybody.
it's not supposed to be just for
Yeah, it's not
devotees.
supposed to be just for devotees, it's just for men, really. And anyways, Jai Jagannath had a nice Instagram post where he was talking about Krishna with Uddhav, saying like basically when we praise or criticize anyone else, we're getting caught in the dualities. And it basically, like, what I took away from his content, the post, was that basically when you are praising or criticizing, they're basically one of the same. They're like the same, different sides of the same coin. And ultimately, they're taking away from you and your connection and what you're supposed to be doing. And I think the biggest challenge is that we still look for outside people to say, oh yeah, you're so holy, or you're so noble, or you're so good, or and we're almost trying to validate ourselves to that. Now, this is again where you have to know, like yourself, like in somebody maybe it's good that you went up to that guy and were like, got buck a little bit, we're like, look, man, don't worry about what I'm doing, or you stuck it up for your reputation. Because if somebody's full of fear and they're just passive, then that might be the right action. But so that's where you have to know your own heart, right? You have to ultimately like fly your own ship, right? That's what Prabhupada said, and that's what I like that saying that you mentioned in our last episode. It was like, because you have to know what's up. Like, why am I doing this? It's always about the why, right? It's like, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because, oh, my reputation is being ruined? So then who cares? Let it go. That becomes your test. Are you doing it because you're like, you know what? I never stick up for myself or have boundaries, so I'm going to set boundaries. Then maybe it's the right thing to do. So again, that's why it's hard to judge or criticize anyone, temple dweller, not temple dweller. You don't know what's actually going on, and they don't know what's actually going on with you.
I'm doing the same thing actually, because I've been sometimes complaining about, the programs. I try and get involved with the new programs, and then I'm always saying to my like closest friends, I don't like the way it's run. It's a bit off. I don't like the mood, And then, he was just like, no, it's just different. It's not that it's bad. It's just, different. And that's what we were saying in one of our other episodes. I think the first one, like, to be able to just do your own thing and not, it's like it's trying to fit into the community, So the reason why I wanted to straighten things out and let people know that, I'm actually serious about Krishna consciousness is because I still like want to fit into that community, like, because these people, like, they run the programs and stuff, and I'd like to be part of it. So it's almost like trying to prove to people I'm good enough to be here, like but it's really like, if you're again firm and fixed in yourself, it's like, well, okay, maybe that's not my mood, my community. It's not that it's wrong necessarily, it's just not my mood. I don't have to criticize them by thinking, they've got the wrong mood and my mood is right and they need to understand me. It's like, okay, then be able to exist anywhere and do my own thing. So in worrying about what they're thinking of me, I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm judging them because, oh, they're so traditional or whatever my thing is, and their mood is like that, blah blah blah. So there's still some yearning, and that's why I still get pulled from the extremes. I'm like getting pulled into and then I go the other way, and it's like then there's so much material suffering getting pulled in. It's like in between two worlds, like the Viking shows in between.
What I took away from
the church
this,
and
go ahead. The Vikings.
No, they just no one. It's not gonna. No one. No, unless you watch it, it's gonna be pointless. But it's like they always have these contrasts between like God and the different gods and stuff. Like you're drawn between the Christians and then there's like the Vikings and stuff like that. All these things. It's like it's always been going on throughout history. These like paradoxes, and each individual has to walk their path or fly their own plane through these kind of things.
Yeah, I like you said, it's Maya's tricky, right? And so we're trying to kind of untangle ourselves, to use sort of Buddhist language. We're entangled and we're trying to untangle ourselves, and but that's like, I think that's too when we get into too much mental speculation, right? And we don't just necessarily just serve and take up the practice of serving, right? And because when we're really serving, actually, there's no question of whether it's the right place or not the wrong place, because you're not taking a center. It's not about you, so you're not taking a center role in it, right? You're
and actually, there may be so many things wrong.
Here?
There may be so many off things. There may be things not being done exactly right. But if the mood is on service, then it's like at least you're doing some service, and you can like. Do you know what I mean? It's like not everything has to be perfect. You can still it doesn't kind of matter if things are being done in a way you don't really think is exactly right. It's kind of like not the point anyway.
Yeah. Let's dive into some Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
The Gita, the song of God.
That's what it means.
That's what it means. That's what it means.
Yeah.
He's so advanced, he knows what the Bhagavad Gita means. Oh, jeez.
So let's start from the beginning this time.
Yeah, we're gonna just go through it so that way anybody who's following us along, any home dwellers want to get their Gita,
anyone who has a house and holds on to it
and happens to dwell inside of it, and we'll just go right from the beginning. We'll do so maybe I could start this week, and so we'll do we're doing the Sanskrit, right? We're embarrassing ourselves.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice embarrassment. All right, let's do it. All right. Chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Text 1. Dhiradrashtra uvacha dharma setra Kurukshetra samaveta yuyuta savaha mamakaha pandavas cheva kim akurvata Sanjaya. Translation. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession, without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharma Setra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibilities of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjaya. What did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in that field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjaya was a student of Vyasa, and therefore, by the mercy of Vyasa, Sanjaya was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so, Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family, but Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhana, and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons, headed by Yudhishthira, would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmakshetra or Kurukshetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance.
So I just think it's so important, this beginning of this purport, saying like how to study this book, you know.
Yeah.
Thing to, because a lot of people say, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, even me, and that, you know, you just read it once and you're like, yeah, I've read it. But and then you even class that as studying. I've studied the Gita, like meaning I've read it once, but studying means to study, not just read it, because come on, like it's so deep, and like just reading it once, we're even not going to really understand it properly. So, but it says you got to read it, you know, asking and basically study it with someone who's self-realized, or as far as I understand, it means with someone who's more self-realized than you. So that's the way to read these things. And often the thing is with this, if we miss this point, we misunderstand the whole Bhagavad Gita. Like if we miss this point where, you know, like with a compass, or they say with a ship, if you're going slightly the wrong direction, by the time you'll be completely in the wrong place. So if you misunderstand this point, that you have to read this inquiring from someone more self-realized than you. You know, but because I've heard people give class on this verse and not mention that. Like this is like the most important thing. Like, and because if we miss that, our whole philosophy is like messed up. You know.
Well, and I think too, what I take away from that is that you have to read the Bhagavad Gita in a mood of humbleness. Like you can't be there to be like, oh, I'm already enlightened. Like I've you know, I remember this one guy came we had a Krishna group here in where I live, and this one guy, he's into like transcendental meditation stuff, and he would come with his like, it's all just love, it's all just love. So he couldn't grasp anything further than the philosophy, because he came already with an attitude, which we all do. I do this too, so it's not just him. I'm just as an example, I'll call myself out and say, when we come with this attitude of I know that, and anything, like I'm a business coach, right? We do semen retention training, sexual alchemy training. When people come already with this attitude of I already know, then there's nothing you can teach them. So when you come to Bhagavad Gita or any study with an attitude of I already know, you know, then ultimately you're basically cutting off your ability to learn before you even get started. Yeah, you're
miss
totally
out on
missing
so
out.
much, because we will definitely make discrepancies in the philosophy if we have that attitude, and that's the danger, is that we read all this stuff and make up our own meanings behind it, you know. That's like very dangerous,
or
and
we
we
don't
see
like
that
something. Yeah, we don't like, because we're like, oh man, I still want to, you know, do this or do that, and then the philosophy tells us, you know, that's not the path. Then we're like try to reinterpret it so it matches our sense gratification. So what I've done is I'll just be like, no, that is the philosophy, and what I'm doing is not part of it, and realizing that's it, because I'm like, I'd rather just be truthful about it. It was like when I was still smoking dope, and me and my buddy, we was in his garage, and we was passing past the Dutchie on the left hand side.
the Tagadon.
I thought you were gonna
give me the music.
So we was passing the Dutchie, and then he was saying like, oh yeah, you know, this gives me so much creativity, and it's, you know, such, like, he was just basically trying to glorify it in a way, right, and try to big it up. And I was like, look, bro, honestly, man, I smoke this because I'm addicted to it. I said, because I've been smoking it since I was a young buck. I got addicted. And now I'm smoking it, and because I'm trying to enjoy and all this stuff. And he just kind of stopped, and because he knew there was the truth, right? I was like, that's the truth. I said, so the best thing we can do is, if we're smoking the ganj, don't lie about it. Don't try to like all of a sudden put some philosophy behind it, like, oh, you know, we're so like this is somehow beneficial. It's not. It's a sense pleasure. It's a poison. It's not beneficial, right? There's nothing about it that's good. So that for us, maybe a medicinal context is different. But I said, this is not medicinal. This is us smoking weed in the garage to get high. there's nothing medicinal about this, right? I said, so at bare minimum, just be truthful, because at least then you're not messing up your own word. You're not screwing yourself up by trying to implement this philosophy behind it when it's
that's
not.
a humble way to approach it, you know. So anything either we don't understand, we admit, oh, I don't understand that, and inquire, rather than, oh, I know everything. And also, if there's something we do clearly see, like to be surrendered to this knowledge and understand there is higher knowledge. But if we see something that, we're not at that standard, instead of getting mad about it or trying to, screw around with the philosophy to suit, just be like, I'm not there yet, and I'm going to be honest and say, like, right now where I'm at, but I understand that is a higher principle. That's, I mean,
like it's like you just might be like, or I'm like, I'm still not ready to give that up, right? Like, you know, type of thing, right? Like I have an attachment there, but at least if you acknowledge the truth about it, then at least like I, you know, smoking ganj, what it helped me with that is by acknowledging it, I wasn't further entangling myself in some mental philosophy that this is somehow beneficial or somehow raises me up. You know, a lot of new agey people are like that, right? Oh no, that stuff is good. It helps me expand my consciousness. I'm like, how?
No, it's
literally
very subtle.
actually,
They do it with they do it with sex also, which is there's so many subtleties to it, but some of them it's just completely about sense gratification. Like they get into, like, you know, we talk about tantra, and that's got a bad rep as well, because it's like a lot of the tantra scene is just like people having orgies and saying it's really spiritual. It's like,
totally,
you know, they'll use anything they already like, sense gratification. They're like, and they'll make their own philosophy out of it, you know. So that's the danger if we don't understand the first the first verse. If you misunderstand that first verse, then the whole thing is like misunderstood.
You want to go to an orgy, go to the orgy, but don't be I'm not telling
don't
you
be
go
saying
to
it's in the
but don't be
Bhagavad
saying
Gita,
it.
like.
But don't, that's all we're saying. Like, you're gonna go to the orgy and participate, fine, but don't be go in there and thinking like, oh, but it's actually like spiritual or anything like that. It's not. And so I think personally, it's just my reflections is that what's helped me anyways is just to be brutally honest about things. And it's actually quite freeing, because I recognize that the only reason I wasn't being brutally honest is because I cared what other people thought, like, which was also still not honoring Krishna in my heart or anything. So it's just that ability to be free in yourself and say, you know what, this Saturday I'm going to the orgy. All right, it's on
after Gita class.
After Gita class, I'm going to Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to the kirtan. Then I'm going to the orgy. This is Saturday's plans. But don't be coming back saying, oh yeah, I'm you know, like so elevated or something like that, right? It's like, no, you're clearly not. It's all good. When I say it's all good, meaning you should try to improve, maybe start going to less orgies, maybe, right, you know, and then from there, you'll recognize, at least for myself, I can, you know from the weed, when I started being brutally honest about it, it started loosening up its grip. It's almost like Maya started giving me a little bit of a break and saying, all right, well, he's not like, he's at least not, he's still delusioned, but maybe he's just a little less delusioned, you know? At least he's being real with it. Yeah. Jesus said, that was a teaching from the Bible that I really took, was Jesus said, the truth will set you free. And I think he meant that I think you can interpret that at different levels. The truth, God, the ultimate truth, will set you free from this material world. I also think on a practical level, like a psychological level, the truth will set you free. Yeah, I'm still going to orgies because I'm still attached there, or I'm still smoking the dope or whatever. But I recognize that this is not spiritual. This is a material activity I'm engaged in. And again, you don't even have to, like, I don't like, you know, I don't beat myself up or say, oh, geez, oh, I saw that hot girl and I'm having all these lusty thoughts. I'm like, obviously, I have a material body, and that girl is fine as fine can be. And so, yeah. But but am I like, oh, I'm spiritual? No, I'm like, no, this is a material response to a material condition, right? So I think when you could do that, but you can accept that you're also material and find those balances between the two, it just helps loosen it up, which helps you actually then advance a little bit more. From my perspective, maybe I'm totally delusioned and just I'm gonna be a hog my next life.
Maybe, and yeah, maybe it's a
fine.
personal
I'm
thing.
cool with that.
Some people may see it another way, and that helps them. But I certainly adhere to what you're saying, and it helps me. That's why I like having these conversations with ya.
Yeah. You want to do one more, and then we can wrap it up. We can do text too.
Okay, then. So I just gotta find it now.
Oh, sorry, you put it away. Oh, Prabhu, you shouldn't put the Bhagavad Gita away until class is finished, Prabhu. Oh, yeah. Next time someone comes up to you and says, "How many rounds you chanting?" You just say, "I've never stopped. I'm chanting right now. Can't you see it with your mystical eyes?"
I actually said something like that. I said, I don't really know the number right now because I just keep chanting. Like, I just keep.
I'm chanting right now. Can't you hear it?
I drove down today and I just chanted the whole way. So it's an hour's worth. What's that? 8 rounds? I said,
you toss it back on them.
I don't think that's exactly what you're supposed to do. But
yeah. How many rounds you chanting? I don't know, but I spit a hot 16.
Yeah, 16. I got 16 bars for you.
That's right.
All right. So text 2. Sanjaya Uvacha. Drishtva tu Pandavan Nikam Vyadam Duryodhanas Tada Acharyam Apasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjaya wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king, and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjaya therefore informed the king that his son, Duryodhana, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician, but Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas.
Nice.
It's cool how they all act correctly. Like the king had to first go to the general, you know, taking advice from the Kshatriyas and stuff. Like,
well, it's so we don't like that's something that's lost in today's culture, right? Like largely, you know, I'm sure it's still there, but you could see like that the politicians or, you know, whoever, you know, generally aren't acknowledging the hierarchies or the different people. But even then, like one thing I appreciate about Vedic culture, where it talks about like your enemy, if your enemy comes over, you still have to feed them first.
Yeah.
You know, so there was still honor on the battlefield, but now it's like now the kings don't even go to the battlefield, you know. The kings or the presidents or prime ministers, they don't do that. But back in the day, the king would be at the front, you know. Like you talk about the Vikings. You know,
they have to be. That's how they got their respect. Like they wouldn't respect you as a king if you didn't win many battles.
Yeah.
And also you used to know who your enemies were. Like it was pretty clear. Like the king, for example, I'm gonna kill all the eldermen and take the throne. of Mercia or whatever. And he just does it, and everyone knows, I just killed them all. What are you gonna do? It's like, well, he's a good king, man. There sometimes has to be bloodshed. Like, but
That's
it's
right.
not in secret. Like nowadays, it's like we don't even know who the enemy is. Like actually, where our own enemy is so confusing.
Yeah.
But back then, at least it was clear. Oh, there's these guys doing this, doing that, and then there's noble people trying to be righteous, and there's people trying to be evil, and it's like nowadays it's so hard to tell even the difference.
Well, and nowadays your king might be your enemy.
Exactly.
I'm in Canada, so that's the situation. Right? It's like right nowadays, like your own king might be your enemy because they're taking from their own people, right? Like Prabhupada called them pirates, right? Plunderers, the modern day politicians. They're not even leading the people. They're just there to make money, right? Politician now is a way to make money. It's a career now.
Well,
and it's not like a noble thing that you get lifted up to by the society or the community.
No.
The society doesn't know, yeah.
The Varnashram system just isn't there, basically. So that what happens is Vaishyas take over the businessmen. They take over when really it's supposed to be in an order. Like the Brahmanas are supposed to be at the top pretty much. They're not even like...
Nobody even cares. Yeah.
No, I don't say they're at the bottom. I guess they're at the bottom, but it's more just like, oh, that's a nice thing. Sometimes we like to hear about God is nice.
Yeah,
but it's not
it's like, oh, that guy's sweet. He talks about God.
Like even back in the day, the kings would go and pray, and they might believe their God is the God and the others aren't or whatever, but they'd still be like, God, let us win this battle today. And it's like when they're going out to battle, it's like, God is with us, you know?
Yeah.
So at least there was some understanding of that, and they would have their generals advising them and stuff. And yeah, but and now that's like, yeah, completely gone. Yeah. So just the business, the Vaishyas are just taking over. It's all about money, as you say.
Yeah, they want to eliminate God now, right? You have like a large atheistic. You got a guy like George Soros, who's like a big business guy, Wall Street, blah 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 blah, and he's an open atheist, right? He's like, no, I'm atheist, and blah blah.
No, and that's celebrated now. That's like almost the highest. Like, we're so advanced. The religion is the old idea. It's gone. We're so advanced now. It's like,
we're progressing more. Yeah, but it's in the illusion of progression because they think progression is only material. My iPhone is better now. I'm progressing. I'm an asshole. I can't. I'm riddled with drugs and blah blah blah. I'm unhappy, but my iPhone is better. We're so advanced, right? But our society, you can just see from the stats, at least in the Western world, high obesity rates, divorce rates, mental health, popping pills, low testosterone, like so many issues. And yet people are like, oh, we're progressing and we're so advanced. And it's like, no, it's just there's a few people that have technologically advanced us and they're making a ton of money. And they're basically, kind of exploiting people. But again, we can only be exploited to the degree of our understanding, right? If we have actual understanding, we can't be exploited because we can see through it, because we don't value that. If you don't care what version of your iPhone is, then you don't care. So it wouldn't even matter. Oh, we brought out another iPhone. And you'd be like, yeah, I'm still on the Nokia flip phone or whatever, then you're like, whatever, it doesn't matter because your values aren't there. So it ultimately comes down to values, and our society is so materialistic now that even, again, that's why I don't really like, for me, I don't like judge as best as I can, try not to judge people where they're at, because I understand this, the chips are almost stacked against us all in the Kali Yuga, right? So it's like to go out there and be like, look at all these karmis and how horrible they are. I was like, first of all, that was most of us just a few years ago, even if it's 10 years in the game or whatever. It's like, so, all of a sudden you think you're like holier than thou. But the other thing is that the chips are stacked against them and against us too, right? Like it really is. We're fortunate in some way that we're have enough consciousness or karma backed up that we're like even sitting here reading the Gita, right? Or any spiritual scripture, the Bible, anything. Anybody who's doing anything is like fortunate, because most people aren't. So I think it's just best to, again, mind your own business, just kind of evolve yourself, do what you can. And then you can see the society for more clearly of where it is and where it's going. And then you'll better be able to navigate it too, right? And make better decisions that are outside. It's a marketing thing which says when everybody zigs, you zag, right? Meaning if the whole society is going for the new iPhone, or the latest craze or the newest social media platform that you gotta be on. If not, you're a loser. No, man, just stick to MySpace, right? Stick to just do. My point is just do what's best for you, for your soul, and then everything else takes care of itself. And you won't even have to work as hard as everybody else, or you know what I mean. You'll have a nice life overall. There'll still be challenges, of course, but overall, it's pretty nice living.
Yeah, it's gotta live from that place. You might have to engage in some of that stuff, but
yeah, well, that's life, man. We are all finding a balance in our way. So, hey, man, this was awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you. I
yeah, man.
appreciate it. That was a
You
nice
too.
way. Hey, man, for
Yeah.
those who are with us, I see a few people. Again, say what's up. You guys are shy. You don't leave any comments. You don't say hello. We're not feeling justified in our preaching. We're not feeling welcome here. We're not being validated in any way. And that's not good for my Krishna consciousness. So please leave some comments. Say what's up. Subscribe. Share this out if you know some devotees that are like-minded who want to, who are in the world but want to learn more about Krishna consciousness and go down this path. Send them our way, man. This is a good thing we're doing, I think.
Oh, we got a comment.
Oh, we got a comment. Nice. Someone's validating. Now I feel validated. Thank you.
Oh, now I can.
Now I know I'm advanced.
Yeah. Thank you.
How do you say that name? How do you
I think it's Hardik Kapoor.
Hardik, that makes sense. Hardik Kapoor. You guys are doing an amazing job. You see how I put my own words in there. You guys are doing great job. Thank you so much. Just joined recently. Oh, fantastic, man. Well, welcome. Thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button, or if you're on Facebook, we've got a YouTube channel called The Real Householders of Krishna Consciousness. Go and subscribe there because we want to get our numbers up there, because it's all about devotees and followers, right? Like, we're not just doing this for advancement of ourselves. This is about getting more and more devotees going, you guys are amazing. All right, let's get that intro. Let's get that exit music. So thank you guys so much. We go live at the same time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What time is it in the UK? Like when we start?
2 p.m.
So 2 p.m. in the UK. I will subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Prabhu. That's nice. It helps us get this out there and helps us get out to more Krishna consciousness.
And I think Hardik has a question about semen retention.
How can we be consistent with practicing celibacy? Would be of great help. Well, if you're practicing celibacy, then, first of all, I would say that's when you want to maybe pursue a temple or monk life if you want to go fully celibate, or, I don't really know what else to say other than that, or just don't have sex. Just try to keep association with women as limited as possible, and it's easy to practice celibacy, right? Or with whoever you're attracted to. But you got any thoughts around that, Jay?
I mean, still some of the practices that we do in our program, they can help with complete celibacy, because if you can transmute the energy, then you can choose whether to be celibate or active. So still some of these practices can help, like to be healthily celibate, rather than repressed celibate going crazy and stuff.
Yeah, so if you're into, if you want the semen retention stuff, just send us off a message and we can have a little conversation around that. Of course, I'm not celibate. I'm married, but I practice non-ejaculatory sex. So I don't ejaculate when I do have sex. And so that's really helped me transmute my energy and also get the benefits of semen retention. But if you want to practice complete celibacy, then, to me, if I was like, okay, I'm practicing complete celibacy, then I would just not be associating with women. And I would be just really into the spiritual practices, like full on, because then you'd be totally absorbed. but you have to find what's going to work for you, of course. But again, so you're young, 23 years old. So, you know, you have to decide whether that's really beneficial for you now, or is it more beneficial, like maybe to have a girlfriend and, you know, move forward that way in a relationship. Either way, I would say if it's either like, if you're not going to be celibate, be in a committed relationship, because then you have a proper way, or at least a limited way. And remember, no illicit sex. What's the positive of that?
Yeah.
Cleanliness, right? So that's what it's about, right? It's like, what, you know, we tend to, like, the four regs, right? We tend to look at it in the negative, but what is the qualities that we're trying to develop, right? And so it's a type of cleanliness. And so at least commit to somebody, and keep yourself, you know, limiting your partners. Avoid the orgies.
Yeah, it's hard to be celibate in those. Got to stop going those. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Actually, I've only heard of them. I don't even know where I would find one, but anyway. But it's good I'm not trying to find one.
I'm just playing. Wow, sounds perfect for me. It's so difficult for me not to associate with women. Totally. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So for you, Prabhu, it might be better to, like, look at being in a relationship and being there. So send me a message. We could chat more about it. I'm happy to help. And that's why we've got the Army and our sexual alchemy programs. And, you know, we've got things to help you out. All right. Let's do this up.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Next week. Same time.
Same time.
Go subscribe.
Go. Hurry, boat. Hurry, boat. Go, Vindam. Adi Purusham. Go, Vindam, Adi Purusham.
Dance in ecstasy. Haribo.
Dance in ecstasy right next to me. Especially.
Okay, Hare Krishna.